Hi, this is Carmen. I am so glad you decided to join me for this presentation, where we're going to explore how you can secure your holistic financial well-being and in the process be empowered to support humanity and the planet. This is moving you so that you don't feel money conflicts nor fears, and with the consciousness of abundance as you move forward, serving humanity and the planet. Without money conflicts nor fears, and with this consciousness of abundance that we truly are. Even if you feel you lack financial wisdom and have never engaged in financial planning before. So again, welcome. We're going to start with the definition of what is transcendent financial planning. This is a new paradigm based on the unitive narrative of oneness, the consciousness of oneness, that we are all interconnected, that we are connected, that we are one with our own divine self, which is where it all starts, right? One with our divine self, one with each other, one with nature, one with the planet, one with the universe, all interconnected. And we're going to start with the definition of transcendent financial planning, which is a new financial planning paradigm based on the unitive narrative of oneness, consciousness of oneness. It's a 10-step collaborative financial planning process that empowers us to envision, design, actualize, enjoy, and embody a transcendent financial life. And going a bit deeper into this new paradigm, transcendent financial planning, we say that it is the intersection of the following elements: the science of personal financial planning, because it is a science, personal finance and personal economics, holistic well-being, expansion of consciousness, our sacred mission, supporting the well-being of all, and the consciousness of oneness. A unitive narrative. And when you put all of that and you interconnect all of those elements, well, you've got something that can be called transcendent financial planning. And then we have to define what is a transcendent financial life, which is the outcome of a transcendent financial planning process. This is where we're going. We want to, again, embody a transcendent financial life, which is a life that's harmonious, okay? Where we're very conscious of our money behaviors, and all of our money behaviors are consumption, the way we spend money, the way we save it, the way we invest it, the way we protect it, the way we generate it through our livelihood, and the way we gift it away. All of these money behaviors are aligned with our core values and with our sacred mission, and with our financial goals, because our financial goals are now life-centered financial goals, okay, that really seek to support the well-being of all, really seek to support not just ourselves and our loved ones, but humanity and the planet. The transcendent financial life is where we go from the I and the me to the we, and even beyond that, to the well-being of all. So those are the elements of a transcendent financial life, and that's how I defined it. Really, another way to define it is a life where you take care of your own holistic well-being, including your financial well-being, so that you are freed up without conflicts or fears to go forward with your sacred mission to serve humanity and the planet. And that is a transcendent financial life. It's as simple as that. Now, I want to talk to you about 4 unconscious mistakes that fail to support our transcendent financial life, if that's what we're seeking, right? We want to be taking care of our financial well-being, and we're committing 4 mistakes that are unconscious. We don't know in most instances that we are making these mistakes, okay? And they fail to support our holistic well-being and the well-being of all, which is what we're seeking, right? That's what that's really our intention here. Okay, so mistake number 1 is confusing financial products for real financial planning. So someone comes along, or they've come along already, and They offer you a life insurance policy, or they offer you an annuity, a retirement annuity, or an IRA account, or an investment account in some, company that sells investments. Okay. And they say, hey, and now you're engaged in financial planning. I have a financial plan for you. And they sell you an annuity or a cash value life insurance policy. Okay, well, that's not financial planning. Those are called financial products, okay, or financial services, where somebody is serving as an intermediary, let's call it a salesperson, and is earning a commission for. So when you buy that product, that person earns a commission. That's typically the way it goes. It could be a bank or an institution where they don't earn a commission, they're really on salary, but then they're to sell you stuff, sell you products, financial products, and financial services. And they disguise it under the name of financial planning, and that is not financial planning. Okay, and most people do not know the difference. It's really unfortunate. Mistake number 2 is not investing according to your core values. So you might be an investor. If I ask you, well, do you have some money invested? You might say yes. You probably say yes if you're here. In money invested in an IRA or maybe a 401k, another type of retirement plan, or simply invested in mutual funds or an ETF, an exchange traded fund, or maybe you've purchased an annuity and you're investing in an annuity. Okay. But the bottom line is that you don't know how that money is being used. You don't know if that investment that you're making with your money is in coherence, is in alignment with your values. And in most instances, you do not. You do not. Even with so-called socially responsible investments that support the environment and equity and inclusion and diversity, etc., equality. Even those funds, all you have to do is scratch the surface and you will discover that they're not really aligned with your core values. It's a lot of greenwashing and whitewashing that we have to be very careful about. Okay, so that's not investing according to your core values and not knowing that you're doing that. The third mistake is not executing a conscious estate plan. Okay, so we go along, we work very hard, we save our money, we grow our money. We might have a huge IRA or 401k with a couple of $100,000 in there, or maybe even more. Hey, but we haven't sat down to do any type of estate planning. We don't know what a revocable trust is. We don't know the difference between a revocable and an irrevocable trust. Our will, we drafted it and executed it 20 years ago. And so much has happened in our lives, but we never dug it out of that suitcase and taken a look at it and see what we want to do today. Okay, and we don't have a living will, and we don't have a healthcare proxy, and we don't have durable powers of attorney. I mean, we don't have any of that. Or we may have one piece, two pieces, but not comprehensive. I would call it a transcendent estate plan, because it's all connected, and you understand that it's all connected, and it's very, very conscious what you're doing, and it's very updated. It's something that you would feel comfortable with today, not something that you felt comfortable with last year or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And mistake number 4 is not managing your IRA beneficiary designations and distributions wisely. You may not even know. I mean, you may have assigned a beneficiary to your IRA or your 401k years ago, and you don't remember. You don't remember, and you might think that, that your spouse, your former spouse, you might think that your child is the beneficiary, and the beneficiary is your former spouse that you have no relationship with anymore. So, yeah, and then we've got distributions, IRA distributions. There's a completely new set of laws from a few years ago, and the Secure Act signed by Biden a few years ago, and it's got tons of ways of managing our IRA beneficiary designations and distributions in a way that support our well-being, our financial well-being, that are very wise steps to take, because we're optimizing the money that we have and the money that we're going to be receiving as a beneficiary in these IRAs. It could be, an IRA that's owned by your mother or your father or your child, where you're a beneficiary. You know that you are a beneficiary, but you don't really know how all this works. So these are all very, very powerful, important, unconscious mistakes that we need to correct as soon as possible. Okay, so now you might be saying, okay, Carmen, you got me. So now that I know I'm making all these unconscious mistakes, what do I do? Where do I start? Do I start over here evaluating the pros and cons of setting up a revocable trust? Do I review my beneficiary designations? Do I prepare my conscious comprehensive estate plan? Do I start investing for college education for my children and my grandchildren? Or do I look to see how I optimize my cash flow? How about increasing my philanthropic impact? Should I focus on that? Okay, what about drafting and executing my will? At least I can do that, since I don't have the time and I don't feel ready to do my comprehensive conscious estate plan. Maybe I should draft and execute my will and update it. What about develop my retirement plan? Because I have no retirement plan right now. Should I be doing that? And what about designing my debt-free plan? Because I have lots of credit card debt and a couple of loans, and I really want to be debt-free as soon as possible. So should I start there? And what about, maybe I should start by purchasing a life and disability insurance policy? Or maybe I should look at my investments and make sure that they align with my values and make whatever adjustments I need to make. So really review my investment portfolio. Is that where I start? Where do I start? Where do I start, right? And that's typically, when somebody's confronted with financial education and they go to a webinar and they learn a whole bunch of stuff, then they come home and they say, now what do I do? What do I do? There's 1,000 steps that I can take. Okay, that's the question. And the answer is always going to be, my friend, you start with a transcendent financial planning process. The transcendent financial planning process, which is a 10-step process. And the process is going to guide you along, not alone, along, and indicate, what's the next step? What's the next action step? You won't have to worry about it. If you're in the transcendent financial planning process, you will not have to worry about what's next. The process will tell you. Okay, so let's keep going here. So who am I to tell you all these things? So yeah, so my PhD is in education. My MBA is in investments and investment management and financial analysis. And I am a certified financial planner. I've been certified since 1988. Some people have told me that I'm the first Hispanic to ever get certified as a financial planner. I started my own financial planning company in Manhattan with a specialization in retirement planning and pre-retirement planning. And I started that company in 1986, even before I got certified. I loved it so much that I decided to go back to school and get certified. And that's a photo of me there on the screen talking to a group of 500 women business owners in Mexico about the barriers of women entrepreneurs, the inner barriers that they face. Anyway, let's keep going over here. Yeah, so that's my certification. You can see that March 30th, 1988 was when I received my certification as a financial planner. Yeah, and a financial planner, certified financial planner, is someone that has formal recognition of expertise in financial planning, taxes, insurance, estate planning and retirement planning. Okay, all right. So let's continue with 5 reflective questions. Number 1, do you have a love-hate relationship with money that leads to guilt, shame, resentment, and confusion with regard to your finances? Number 2, just answer yes or no to yourself. You may want to take notes also as we go through this webinar. 2, are you informed about the latest personal economics laws that can support you in making wise money decisions? Right? And there's always changes in the laws, tax laws, retirement planning laws, IRA laws, estate planning, wills and trusts and living wills and powers of attorney. There's always changes. And we need to keep up. So how do we keep up? Right? Got so much on our plate. We don't have the time to do that. All right. 3, are your money actions or money behaviors, spending, saving, investing, and gifting, and livelihood, in alignment with your personal and spiritual values? Okay. Number 3, are you ready to practice unity consciousness, the consciousness of oneness in your spiritual, physical, and financial life, so that you experience true holistic well-being? We are all evolving towards consciousness of oneness. It really doesn't matter where you are. What's important is where you're going and where you want to go in terms of your evolving potential towards the best version of yourself, who you are becoming, the lure of becoming. This is very, very important. And number 5, do you wish to co-create an ethical spiritual economy that works for all? Right? That is really related to the bonus question, which is, are you the change you want to see in the world? Do you consider yourself the change you want to see in the world? Because if you are, then that means you're also the new economy you want to see in the world. And it starts with you. Okay? All right. So a little bit about my journey, just a couple of minutes. This is my journey with financial planning because I am in my hero's journey with Transcendent Financial Living with this project. Okay, and it is an amazing, amazing journey. Okay, so I was born in Puerto Rico from an Army family. My father was in the Army for 30 years, so I'm kind of like an Army brat. Okay, and I was born to teach. I knew I was born to teach since I was 7 years old. That's a long story. So at the age of 23, I received a PhD in teacher training, in education. Education with a focus on special education teacher training from Texas Women's University. Okay, but years later, after teaching college, preparing teachers for about 10 years or so, I decided to go back to school. I had this calling of saying, well, Carmen, you have a PhD, you're a teacher trainer, you're young, you have a life to live, and you don't, zero about money. And I wasn't making a lot. I didn't know what to do with a little bit that I was making, even though I had my PhD. And I was a college professor in Manhattan. And this was in the 70s, 76, 77. Before that, I was a college professor at the University of Puerto Rico for a year. And I taught at Queens College, Long Island University, and ended up at a college of education called Bank Street College of Education, teacher training institution in Manhattan. And I loved it. But it's like, well, what do you know about money? Well, nothing. You got to learn about money so then you can teach it. Since my passion is teaching, I said, none of my colleagues knew about money, the college professors, the educators, the teachers, the psychologists in New York City. We were all like zombies around money at the time. And we're talking 81, 82, 1980, 81, 82. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to business school and I'm going to learn about money so that I can teach it. To whom? To my colleagues, to my peers. Okay, to my peers, educators, primarily educators in New York City. Here you go, Bank Street College of Education in Manhattan. What an amazing place where that was. I loved it. But I left it, I resigned. At the peak of my career in education, I resigned. I said, that's it, I'm done. I have this calling in my heart and I'm pursuing it. So I'm going to learn about money so that I can teach it. Okay. And that's what I did. So when I finished my MBA at Columbia University, I went to Wall Street. I was recruited by a top firm, investment banking firm, Prudential actually, PruBage it was called. So I go over there, I become an investment banker, and I hated it. I'm like, what am I doing here? I want to be a personal financial planner, not a corporate financial planner. I'm like in the wrong place. So anyway, it's a long story. I'm making it short. So the bottom line is I leave my investment banking career and I go and join um, a company that did financial planning. And I became a financial planner. And then I decided to go back to school again after finishing my MBA in finance and investments. I went back to school to learn personal financial planning, which is very, very different than corporate finance that I learned in my MBA. It's very, very different. So I went back to school and acquired my certified financial planner because that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to help corporations make more money. I wanted to help people with their money, people like me, right? Educators. And so I had the blessing of being Rookie of the Year at the company that I joined, which is IDS. It's called IDS, Diversified Service, Investor Diversified Services, and now it's called Ameriprise. You may have heard of it. And American Express purchased IDS in 1984, and I joined them right at the time when they were being integrated in the American Express family. Okay, so yeah, so they selected me as Rookie of the Year in my first year with them as a financial planner. And you can see here, this little thing here, I had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to help people. That's it. That's it. So then a few years later, I said, well, you know what? I got to do something in Spanish, right? Because none of my clients spoke Spanish. None of them were Hispanic in my financial planning practice. I had maybe 3 Hispanic clients. And the rest were college professors for the most part. And in Manhattan, in New York City. So I said, I got to do something for the Hispanic community. So I wrote this book. It's called The Financial Planning Guide, Helping You Reach Your Financial Independence. The Power of Your Money. El poder de su dinero means the power of your money. And I wrote this book and I self-published it. I printed it myself. I printed 5,000 copies at $2 each, $10,000. And I sold them like in a day in Florida and in workshops that I was doing in Florida, live workshops. This is before the internet. Okay. And I wrote this book so that if you read it on one side, it was in Spanish. And then if you flipped it around, it was in English. Because I wanted also to give Hispanics like a vocabulary, a financial planning vocabulary. So they could read it in Spanish and then go back to the English version. Oh, this is the way you say it in English. Okay, that was the times. We're talking 1992, 93, 94, around there. Okay, and then my success, my success was my downfall. Let's put it that way. Because I was brought into Puerto Rico. I'm from Puerto Rico, and somebody from Puerto Rico, they own a radio station over there, and they found me in Miami and in New York City. They said, you got to come to Puerto Rico. It's your country. You got to come here because we know nothing about financial planning over here. Zippo. You've got to come over here and teach us and bring financial planning to Puerto Rico. And that's what I did. I did that. I moved to Puerto Rico in 1995, decided to create the financial planning industry in Puerto Rico, and that did not go very well. Did not go very well. The investment companies, the stock brokerage firms over there, they felt very, very threatened by what I was up to. Very, very threatened because I came, with my book, with the radio show in Miami, with my success in Manhattan. And they're like, who is this lady? No, 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 no. We've got to stop her. She's got to be stopped. And that's exactly what they did. And I was not able to get the permits and the licenses that I needed in Puerto Rico to create the financial planning industry in Puerto Rico, which was my goal. So I lost everything. This is when I was on the panel of experts of the Miami Herald. picked up over here. You can see the book there, with my photo, with my Caribbean business. And what is this? Yeah, this is another newspaper in Puerto Rico. Yeah, also Caribbean business. And I was like all over the place. My company's name was CD Ortiz Financial Management Group, with offices in Manhattan and in Miami. And like I said, did not go very well. So I lost everything. I lost everything, all my money, my financial capital, my social capital, my spiritual capital, what else? Pretty much everything except my knowledge, right? My intellectual and knowledge capital, that did not go away. I kept it. But everything else, I lost. I lost everything. And you could see in 1995, my mission was to create the financial planning industry, and regulatory barriers made that impossible. I was not able to get all the permits that I needed. And by 1998, I had lost everything that was of value to me. That's what happened. Okay. So there's an except there. I've got my sacred mission. I didn't lose that, right? Because, I continue. It was either when I lost everything, it was either I was going to die or I was going to end up in a mental institution with a mental breakdown, or, what was going to happen. So that's when I went within, and that's when my spiritual awakening began. It began in 1998 when I lost everything. Everything. And now my sacred mission is to, starting this year, started a couple of years ago, but now it's like firm, solid 2025, and continuing throughout my lifetime. My commitment is to empower all people to live a transcendent financial life, so that together and in radical collaboration, we co-create the new earth so that humanity and the planet can thrive. And that is my hero's journey. It took me decades to come back to financial planning. I did not want anything to do with financial planning in my life when I lost my everything in 1998. And it's not until 2023, towards the end of 2023, that I opened up to the possibility of returning completing my hero's journey with financial planning. And now in 2025, I believe that transcendent financial planning is a process, and our system is the system whose time has come. It's divine timing, and there's been no time when this system has been more urgent, more critical for humanity to thrive and the planet to thrive. And so that is my legacy now, and that's my commitment. Okay, so that's enough about me. I hope you enjoyed that little summary. Okay, and we've got what is going to happen here today, and what are you going to learn? And we've got 4 parts. Each of these parts address one of the mistakes, those unconscious mistakes that we talked about at the beginning. So part 1 is how to design a transcendent financial life with transcendent financial planning. Part 2 is how to make investments that are aligned with your core values and that affirm life. Part 2 is how to make investments that are aligned with your core values and affirm life, as opposed to extracting from life. Part 3 is how to create a conscious estate plan. And part 4, how to protect your financial well-being by managing IRA beneficiary designations and their distributions wisely. Okay? I do hope, I trust, and I invite you to stay with me till the end. I think this information will provide value to you and will make a difference in your life as we go forward. Well, understanding that this is information, you might even call it a bit of education, but you really need to take it to financial planning. You can't just leave it with, okay, now I learned about IRA distributions. No, you have to go and move it towards financial planning, which is where the action is, where the change occurs, the transformation occurs towards a transcendent financial life. And who is this training for? Okay, if you're committed to your holistic well-being, understanding that it includes your financial, emotional, physical, and spiritual health. If you are ready to transform your relationship with money so that you can make wise financial decisions that support your sacred mission, your higher purpose, the reason why you are on this planet right now, that go beyond you, right? The way you want to serve the world. Are you ready to transform your relationship with money so that you can, in fact, make those wise financial decisions and move forward with your life? 3, if you're ready to take the necessary steps to secure your present and your future financial well-being. Okay. And 4, if you deeply desire to make these life-affirming investments that are aligned with your core values and your sacred mission. Okay. So these are just probing questions that will, allow you to determine, hey, yes, I'm resonating, this is for me, or, no, I'm out of here. Okay, so let's go to part 1, how to design a transcendent financial life with transcendent financial planning. Okay, we've got the key question. Are you the new economy you want to see in the world? This is a very, very key question. Because again, if you believe you're the change you want to see in the world, then that means you also believe you're the new economy you want to see in the world. And we've got all these kinds of economies. It's just amazing. It's like every couple of weeks we have a new economy coming out. Regenerative economy, circular economy, solidarity economy, the donut economy, the sacred economy, the barefoot economy, the spiritual economy. And there are more. The care economy, the well-being economy. You can add another probably 7 or 8 to this list. And what I say, and what we say here in Transcendent Financial Living, is that what we need, really, 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 really what we need is an economy based on the consciousness of oneness. Moving from the myth of separation to a unitive narrative. Because even when I study these economies, all of these economies, they're still, for the most part, based on the worldview of separation, that we're separated from our divine self, from each other, and from nature. So I say, what we want to create here is, when I say here, I mean in Transcendent Financial Living, is the ethical spiritual psychology that would encompass, it would include all of these new economies and transcend them as it evolves. This ethical spiritual economy evolves towards oneness, towards the consciousness of oneness. Okay? And then the other question is, are my money behaviors affirming life? It's like, how am I spending my money? How am I creating financial capital? How am I generating my money, my livelihood? How am I saving it? How am I investing it? How am I protecting it? How am I giving it away? All the actions that I can take with my money, all behaviors, money behaviors, right? Because there's just a few things that you can do with $1 that goes through your hand and your pocket. And these are it. What else can you think about? This is it. This is what you can do with your money. And the question is, are all of these behaviors affirming life in total coherence? We here in Transcendent Financial Living, okay, believe in coherence. And that's what we need. As we again evolve into the best version of ourselves, we are moving towards individual coherence and collective coherence as well, and coherence with the universe. Okay, so that's why I say towards a transcendent financial life. And the question again, well, yeah, Carmen, but where do we start? Where do I start? There's so many things that I can do, so many steps that I can take. And the answer is, you start with the Transcendent Financial Planning System. That's how you start. Because if you're engaged in the Transcendent Financial Planning process with our system, then you will know that you're taking the right action at the right time. And let me go through this very quickly. First, here's the current economic paradigm, right? We know that Transcendent Financial Planning is a new financial planning paradigm, right? So, but where are we now? We're the current economic paradigm here, right? And current traditional financial planning, which lives in this current economic paradigm, is mechanistic, it's extractive, egocentric, and it's based on the myth of separation. That's where we're at. That's where we're at, including our current financial planning paradigm. Okay. If we move over here towards transcendent financial planning, then we're moving towards values that are holistic, regenerative, support the well-being of all, and a unity consciousness. This is where we are going. All right. So the transcendent financial planning system is very, very comprehensive, but it involves a 10-step process. And the 10-step process starts over here with step 1. And I'm going to go really quick with this. There's another video where I go deeper. You can go to transcendentfinancialliving.com. You click on the solutions tab, and at the bottom of the page, there's a video that I go really deep into this system. So right now, we're just going to go quickly over it. Step number 1 is transforming your relationship with money. Number 2, core values, seeking that coherence. Number 3, livelihood. Okay. Number 4, your needs. And these are not just financial needs, but also axiological needs. Okay. Then we have our step 5, checking on our money behaviors. Again, seeking coherence and everything. Number 6, looking at our non-financial goals. Number 7, establishing financial goals. Number 8, assessing where we are today with everything that we're covering here. All these components. Step 9 is designing our transcendent financial life. And step 10 is embodying our transcendent financial life. That's it. And some of these steps are included in traditional financial planning. Again, transcendent financial planning includes traditional financial planning and transcends it. Okay. And then, of course, the components in a transcendent financial planning process include cash flow, insurance, investments, education funding, transition planning, estate planning, taxes, retirement, cross-border, and philanthropy, and much more. Like business planning, for example, if you own a business. And this right here, this triangle in the middle is super important. Notice oneness is right at the center. It's based on the consciousness of oneness. And the triangle at the top seeks harmony. Okay. And everything that we do, because a transcendent financial life is a harmonious, coherent life. Okay. Then this little corner over here is ethical transformation, because we're shifting to a new paradigm, and it starts with us. And over on the other corner is psycho-spiritual expansion, understanding that we are spiritual beings having a human experience and doing lots of inner work so that we can be ready to do our outer work. And our outer work here starts with the transcendent financial planning system and process, so that we can then be free to do the work that we really want to do, which is serve humanity and the planet. Okay, so that's the way it goes with transcendent financial planning. Okay, a little bit more on this. We mentioned here in the triangle, we have here at the top harmony. Harmony is one of the foundations, right, of as we move towards an ethical, spiritual, economic paradigm. One of the foundations is harmony. And just going deeper, you can see the elements of harmony: intention and attention, order, balance, generosity, and coherence. Think about money in all of these areas. What's your intention with regard to your personal finances? Okay. How are you organizing your personal finances right now, or not organizing them? What kind of balance are you creating in your life with regard to your money? How you're spending today and how you're investing and saving for the future, for example. And so many aspects of balance. Then we've got the concept of generosity. Okay, this is one of the ways we embody a transcendent financial life, is by expressing generosity, and which brings us harmony and inner peace. And of course, the big one at the top, which is coherence. Because we're living in the consciousness of coherence, a coherent life, then pretty much it's going to be working pretty well for us. Okay. And a couple of more things here. You can see traditional financial planning. It's a 7-step process. This is what certified financial planners practice in traditional financial planning. Step number 1 is understanding your personal and financial circumstances. Number 2 is identifying and selecting goals. Number 3 is analyzing your situation, your current course of action, what you're doing with your money right now. Number 4 is developing your financial plan and your recommendations that you can follow through on. Number 5 is presenting the financial plan, the recommendations. Number 6 is implementing the recommendations. Number 7 is monitoring the plan, and making adjustments. Okay, so that's the 7-step financial planning process. And that's what I practice when I have my financial planning company. And that's what certified financial planners do. So what's the distinction as we transcend towards transcendent financial planning is that transcendent financial planning is based on the consciousness of oneness. It promotes financial empowerment. Okay, you've got the power with your agency to take care of your financial well-being. Okay, the focus is on your sacred mission, your life's purpose, serving humanity and the planet. Okay, it affirms life and the well-being of all. It is eco-we-centric versus egocentric. It develops your financial wisdom, and it shifts the economic paradigm. That's transcendent financial planning, a new paradigm for a new world. Whew. Okay. And we've got 6 key components of a transcendent financial plan. And we start with cash flow. And it kind of goes in this order, really. It could go in this order. It makes sense. Cash flow at the bottom, then moving up towards risk management, managing all kinds of risks that you have in your life regarding money, then going to value-based investments, then creating sustainable income for yourself. Okay, and that would typically be called retirement planning. We call it developing a plan for your sustainable income into the future. And then tax and estate planning, including that conscious estate plan. And last but not least, philanthropy. Okay, but even though it goes like from bottom to top, it's really circular. You really need to look at it circular because you're addressing all of the components all at once inside of your transcendent financial planning process. Okay, that's it. With that, we finish part 1 and we go to part 2, which is how to make investments that are aligned with your core values and affirm life. And today, for conscious investors, we have some options. Not many, but there are some. Okay, and we've got unitive narrative investment funds that are based on a unitive narrative. That's where we want to go. That's where we are evolving, right? Investment funds based on the oneness and the consciousness of oneness. That's where we are evolving. If you look for them right now, I don't know if you're going to find them. You might have to create them yourself. And here in Transcendent Financial Living, we're creating a oneness investment club, and we're going to be creating our own investment opportunities inside of that fund based on oneness. Okay, so it's a lot of work to do there. Okay, you could also invest in conscious startups. That's one way to do it. There are global initiatives that are aligned with your values that you can explore. And then there's philanthropy that is based on a unitive narrative. Okay? Then there are investments that are called regenerative no harm. Okay, and we've got triple and quadruple impact projects. Triple impact, environment, social, governance, and quadruple will bring in the spiritual component. Okay, so and they're out there in the world of investments, but again, lots of greenwashing and whitewashing. You have to be very careful what you're really investing in. Okay, then we've got municipal bonds. That's a possibility. You can invest in municipal bonds. You got peer-to-peer lending. Then we've got restorative no harm. So we've got regenerative no harm and restorative no harm. And we've got community-based projects that you can invest in. And these are some, there's more, So the question again is, how do I start? What is this all about? Where do I get more information? How do I inform myself and become a really powerful, informed consumer of investment products? How do I do that? And that's, again, you're in the right place. Transcendent Financial Living, the Transcendent Financial Planning process includes, and the system and our membership, our sacred space, which is our membership, and our Catalyst Partners Circle. This is what we're about. It's about teaching this and guiding our members and our Catalyst partners towards this type of investments. It's a process. It's lots to learn and lots to, to adjust in terms of our investments. If you already are making investments, it would require, really, really readjusting your portfolio so that it aligns with your values. Okay, so this is just like an eye opener of possibilities. Okay. Yeah, and it's like, how do I begin, right? How do you begin? Core values is a place to begin. Taking a look at your liquidity needs. How much money do you need to have liquid? And what are your goals and what are your needs, your overall needs? And what's your tolerance towards risk? Right? So these are decisions that are made individually inside of, again, of the transcendent financial planning process. This is not like, well, I have a friend that did this with their money and invested this way, so I'm going to do it. No, it's really a very personalized and individual process. As you connect to who you are today and who do you want to become, you will know the types of investments. They will resonate for you at an energetic level. You will know, this is what I want to do with my money. This is what makes sense for me to do right now. Maybe not last year, but maybe not next year, but right now, this is what I can do. To invest my money, with the intention to grow it, and to protect it and grow it for my future needs, in a way that is totally aligned with my values. Okay? And one way, really, really, really powerful way to move forward with this is to create a self-directed IRA. So you may have an IRA right now that's not self-directed and you've got money in there. You move it to a self-directed IRA with another custodian that offers self-directed IRAs. And then inside of your self-directed IRA, you can invest it in anything, pretty much anything that you want, including real estate, for example, and startup businesses. Okay, so yeah, a self-directed IRA is the way to go for conscious investors, for sure, because you have full control of your account. You get your tax-free growth of your investments, like with any IRA. You have the opportunity to define your portfolio in what's called alternative investments, like real estate, for example. And you've got the potential to qualify, of course, for your yearly tax deductions, just like with any IRA, if you make it a traditional IRA, not a Roth IRA. So lots here to learn, but what I want to leave you with, the takeaway is a self-directed IRA is the vehicle, the primary vehicle for conscious investors to make investments inside of their IRA according to their core values. Okay, that is it. Now we're going to go to part 3, which is how to create a conscious estate plan. The first thing is a conscious estate plan goes from the me to the we to the well-being of all. Okay, that's the first thing. It's not egocentric. It's ecocentric and beyond. It transcends ecocentrism because it goes again to oneness and to the well-being of all. Okay, but it does include beneficiary designations. They need to be current, align again with your values, last will and testament, your durable power of attorney, healthcare proxy, your living will, your trust, revocable and non-revocable, and your conscious philanthropy. Each one of these components of these require documents to be drafted, to be executed, signed, notarized, again, put away in their appropriate folder with their appropriate organization, appropriate folder called My Conscious Estate Plan. Okay. We're doing and we're promoting what's called adulting ceremonies, where you have the notary, a remote notary come to your house. If you're in the United States, you can do this, and you can have a celebration with based on oneness. Very, very, very powerful, spiritually oriented celebration. You have the notary coming in, you have the people that are going to be serving as your witnesses, and your loved ones that will be supporting you, and it will be integrated and included in your conscious estate plan, and you can bring them into your home or into any type of space and have a celebration, and have the notary public sign everything, have everything notarized for you as people sign. You have everybody sign what they need to sign. The notary public notarizes it, and you make a celebration out of it. And you say, yes, I am ready. I have completed my conscious estate plan. And details about this, again, are inside of transcendentfinancialliving.com. You become a member of our Transcendent Financial Planning membership space, or you become a Catalyst partner and join the Catalyst Partner Circle, and you don't have to worry about any of this on your own, because you're going to be guided and you're going to have all the support that you need to make it happen. Okay. Yeah, and these are some of the legal documents that you can do on a self-directed basis with the appropriate education, knowledge, I should say, practical knowledge, and the appropriate guidance and the correct tools, technological tools. And some of these tools you can see right here: Rocket Lawyer, Trust and Will, Law Depot, and Total Legal. All right, all of these platforms that are online allow us to really use our agency, our power, our self-empowerment to really move forward with our conscious estate plan in a powerful way. Okay. Again, as long as you have the correct practical information and practical knowledge and the right tools, and you are guided, you have the guidance to make sure you're doing this right. Okay. Then part 4 is how to protect. We're now entering the last part of the webinar, addressing the 4th mistake, the unconscious mistake. And here we're going to talk about how to protect your financial well-being by managing IRA beneficiary designations and distributions wisely. And here the Secure Act of 2.0, Secure Act 2.0, that gets into IRA beneficiary designations. And it was signed into law at the end of 2022. It was like 2 years ago, a little bit over 2 years ago. And it was designed to substantially improve retirement savings options, including 401ks and 403bs in the United States. Created lots of changes, confused everybody. But again, if you're engaged in the Transcendent Financial Planning process, you don't have to worry about being confused, okay? But this Secure Act 2.0 creates new categories of IRA beneficiary designations that result in 3 categories, with each category having specific distribution rules. That's sort of confusing, right? It sounds like, what? And the 3 beneficiary categories are eligible designated beneficiary, designated beneficiary, and non-designated beneficiary. So you can see, and on the next slide, you're going to say, oh my goodness, how do you figure all this out? It's really not rocket science. Again, nothing related to personal finance and financial planning is rocket science. It may seem that way, but it isn't. It's all very, very, really basic, simple information. You just need to open up your mind, to learn it, to let it flow into your brain and into your soul, and then start applying it. That's all. But it's really not that complicated. Okay, so here we go on this. This is an important chart. These are the different categories, beneficiary categories. We've got eligible designated beneficiary. The key here is that It includes surviving spouse and minor child of a decedent. Includes also a disabled person. All right, but the key is the surviving spouse. Surviving spouse is an eligible designated beneficiary along with these other categories or these other, types of people. Okay, then non-eligible designated beneficiary. The key is that it includes non-spouse beneficiaries. Non-spouse. So eligible is spouse, surviving spouse, non-eligible, non-spouse. And then non-designated beneficiary, that's everybody else. Those are not people, right? States, charities, and trusts. State, charities, and trusts are non-designated beneficiaries. And each one of these categories has special rules. Okay, we're going to see a few examples here. Okay, so these are distributions at death options for a surviving spouse. A surviving spouse. That, as I just said, that is considered an eligible designated beneficiary, surviving spouse. Okay, you can take your IRA distribution if you're the surviving spouse as a lump sum. You can leave the assets in your deceased spouse owner's name and establish what's called an inherited IRA. You can roll over the IRA to an IRA in your own name, or you can elect to be treated as a descendant. Which one do you think would be the best option in most instances? Well, again, the transcendent financial planning process will tell you what's the best option. I can tell you in most cases it's going to be number 3, though, but it will tell you it because it will be, you need to determine it on a personalized basis. Okay. If you take the distribution as a lump sum, then future tax deferral accumulations are not available, right? Because you're breaking the IRA, you're taking it as a lump sum. So you're giving away the possibility of accumulating that asset, okay, on a tax deferred basis into the future when you take it as a lump sum. Okay. Now, if you leave it in your deceased spouse's name and you establish that inherited IRA account, then we get into required minimum distribution rules. What happens if your spouse died before required minimum distributions were established, or after? So I'm not going to get into that. That's a bit technical, and I don't want to waste our time here with that. I want to get to number 3, which is I think the optimum option in most cases, most cases, and that's to roll over that IRA that you've inherited into your own name. Into your name. In that case, it would be like if you had established it yourself. Okay. But here's the key. Here's the kicker. If you are the surviving spouse, then you must be named as the sole, meaning the only beneficiary in that IRA account. It cannot be, okay, my spouse is beneficiary for 50%, and my youngest child has 25%, and my other child has the other 25%. No, you have to be the 100% beneficiary, the sole beneficiary of your deceased spouse IRA in order to go with option 3, which is, again, the optimum option in most cases. In that case, you, as the surviving spouse, can take required distributions as they apply to you, like if it was, again, your own IRA, based on your own survival or life expectancy, I should say, based on your own life expectancy, just like if it was your own IRA. Okay, so, and then elect to be treated as a decedent, I'm not going to cover because I don't think we're going to go that route. Now, in most instances anyway. Now, option 3, again, so what do you do? So if your spouse has an IRA, you want to talk to your spouse about this option and see if it makes sense, again, and really it's through the financial planning process the transcendent financial planning process, you're going to know what's your best approach, and if it makes sense for your spouse to make you the sole beneficiary of that particular IRA. You got to take a look at the whole picture. You probably have more than one IRA account. You probably have a 401k plan that can be transferred to an IRA. It's lots and lots of possibilities. So don't try to figure this out yourself without the appropriate information and the appropriate knowledge, which is more than information. I'm calling it practical knowledge, where you really, really, really integrate that information into your being. And then you look for guidance inside of your transcendent financial plan, and you will know what to do. And the other thing is, you may have an IRA and you're married, right? And then you want to take a look at your IRA to see who do you have assigned as a beneficiary. And if it makes sense, again, inside of your transcendent financial planning process, if it makes sense to make your spouse the sole IRA beneficiary of your IRA account. So you can see, when you really go, scratch the surface, you will conclude this is really not rocket science. This is really not that complicated. What happens is that in financial planning is usually the approach is very mechanistic and reductionistic, and it's all divided, into parts, and it's not connected. It doesn't make sense because it's not a holistic view. And then it gets very complicated. And you say, no, I'm confused. And the reason why you're confused is because the approach that's being presented is mechanistic, it's reductionistic, it's simplistic to its parts, But when you take an approach that's integral, that's systems-based, that's looking at all of the components, including the relationship between your IRA and your conscious estate plan and your relationships with your loved ones, it's all of it. It's not just about the designations, it's about your relationship with your people in your life. And that would make it then integral. It would make it holistic. It would make it even transcendent. And that's when it starts making sense and everything starts to click and you can make it happen. Okay? Yeah, so that is it. And yeah. Here's a chart for distributions at death options for non-eligible. Non-eligible, remember, includes non-spouse. So the non-spouses could be you are the child and you're the beneficiary of your mother's IRA account or of your father's IRA account or uncles or whomever. Okay, then you are a non-eligible designated beneficiary. And you've got these options here. You can take it as a lump sum, give up future tax deferral accumulations. Okay, or number two, you can establish an inherited IRA account and take the distributions over a 10-year period. Here you don't have the option of inheriting, being the beneficiary of an IRA account, let's say of your mother, and creating an IRA account in your own name. You don't have that option. Only if you were the spouse as the beneficiary. Here you have to either take it as a lump sum or you have to take those distributions over a 10-year period. And of course, the exact amount is going to depend upon the person that passed away, if they died before they were required to take distribution or not. I'm not going to get into that. It's a bit technical, but the point is it doesn't matter. The key takeaway is that you have 10 years to take all the money out of your IRA. You have to distribute it and pay taxes on it, assuming it was a traditional IRA and not a Roth IRA. But you would have to take whatever tax implications are for that IRA. You would have to take it over a 10-year period. Deplete the IRA account over a 10-year period. Okay, that's it. Or take it as a lump sum and pay whatever taxes are due on that IRA. And with that, we finish the presentation. And here's what we've covered: how to design a transcendent financial life with transcendent financial planning. Part 2 was how to make investments that align with your core values in a firm life. Part 3, we covered how to create a conscious estate plan. In part 4, how to protect your financial well-being by managing IRA beneficiary designations and distributions wisely. So this is an overview of these, how to address these 4 mistakes. Just basic presentation and overview. If you want to go deeper, then you would want to join our Transcendent Financial Planning membership. Okay, and with that, I thank you for your time. And we've got 2 final reflective questions. Number 1, do you need to change your money behaviors so they are coherent with who you really are and wish to become? I want to leave you with that question. And the second question, what stops you from getting started with Transcendent Financial Planning? Okay, you can visit us at transcendentfinancialliving.com, and we can keep this conversation going there. And I thank you for your time, for spending this time with me today. Blessings. What do you say? Lo hice.